Noon, happy Sunday. I am taking advantage of some free time and some ample time on an afternoon to make a slow cooked chili. On the menu today is a white bean chili. It's made with chicken and corn, specifically cannellini beans and chickpeas, as well as some canned peppers. It's delicious, and I have been making this, oh gosh, for over 20 years. And for the most part, it's with ingredients that I have on hand. Today I am not going to boil dried beans. I'm just going to use canned beans. So I've gone ahead, oh look at that, it's happened again. I don't know, I said this in a video yesterday that the onions that I bought just an hour before shooting the video, they're kind of yucky in the core. I'm not exactly sure what's happening there, so we could certainly just remove that piece. Sorry, kind of gross to look at. No problem to eat around it. Okay, so yeah, this recipe was introduced to me, oh gosh, through, I think it was a neighborhood cookbook. Where I grew up, it was often that the church up the street would put together the home traditional family recipes and spins on tradition, or spins on seasonal recipes, and they were always so much fun. That's really what inspired me to try cooking, and sincerely, and I learned so much from just reading the different recipes for the same dish. But I just kind of learned how you can mix and match, and I also learned a lot of traditional techniques, which I found has just been, oh, it's been an awesome boon to my cooking as I grew up. So I'm just going to get going here and prep. I have a tablespoon, maybe about 2 tablespoons of olive oil already in the pot. I'm going to chop up 1 white onion. And again, I have a can of rinsed cannellini beans, chickpeas, corn, and some diced green chilies. And all of that is just raring to go. And I also have some chicken breasts. I'm going to use a pound of chicken breasts this time around. But it is definitely soup weather. And this is the chili. It's not thick like my beef chili. It uses chicken stock as the base. It really does make a large amount. However, I have never gotten it to the point where it wasn't eaten, and I needed to end up freezing some of it for another time. So this one goes really fast, and I like to serve it with buttermilk cornbread as well. I don't know if I'll have time to video that today. I have some National Public Radio on in the background. I am loving this program that they have on Sundays, particularly the medieval motets. It's not on for another hour or so. But this kind of is similar. Very appropriate for the holiday season, I think. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just reserve this in a bowl. I don't know, in my never-ending quest to use as few dishes as possible when preparing meals, I always cut my veg first and then use the same cutting board and wait to do the meat at the very end. But I end up using dishes to store the veg, so I don't know what's worth it. I ordered myself some new cutting boards, and I'm really excited about them. They're made of titanium, so we'll see how that goes. But they're just uber easy to clean, a little bit more hygienic, and sturdy as all get out. And as I understand, if the ad is accurate, these are, I could just wash them simply with soap and water, and they don't dull the knives. So let's get going on this. I'm going to wait to start the oil just because I'm kind of feeling schmaltzy here. I'm going to take my time and chop all this goodness up. 3 chicken breasts. No rush, especially with soups. My daughter is with her godmother, and they are having a wonderful time with another little kiddo, and so I just accidentally ended up with an afternoon free, and so it's a good time to get those last Christmas presents wrapped and hidden, as well as have a yummy meal for when she gets home tonight. I did say, I think in an earlier video, that my kiddo found her Christmas presents not once, but twice. I thought I was being so sneaky, and the space is just so limited, places where I could hide the gifts. But what I ended up doing this time, I got a few more gifts. I let her open a few, certainly, but I got a few more gifts, and what I ended up doing is put them back in the first place where I hid them, and so far she has not looked for them. She has no idea. So this little trick will work this year, but next year we shall see what happens. And I did not certainly mean to destroy any magic of Christmas with my kiddo regarding Santa Claus. Quite innocently, one afternoon, she just looked up at me and said, "Mom, are you Santa?" You know, and gosh, you can't lie, but I just talked about the magic of Christmas and the fact that it's Jesus' birthday is the real purpose behind it. And she got a kick out of that. And then 2 minutes later, she looked at me and she goes, "Are you the Tooth Fairy too?" So here we are. All the mysteries debunked, but she seems fine with that. The tricky part is encouraging her to let that magical idea live with other kiddos. And, I've also found it's a pretty good jumping off point for recognizing that a lot of people do have their own traditions and holidays. A lot of, not everyone believes in God. Not everyone practices Christmas or any, holiday. And so it's been kind of a neat jumping off point for those kinds of conversations, and just loving and appreciating the diverse world that we do indeed live in, and the richness of all these traditions when you look at it from that perspective. It makes it special in a very, very awesome way, I think, anyway. All right, now I'm going to get that heat going, and I'm just going to go over, not the oven. I am going to start this over medium heat. Yeah, and this chili goes by so many different names. Chicken chili, white chili, different kinds of things. But from what I've seen, it is a straight across the board standard recipe. And it's not spicy. There's cumin is in it, and that's the gist of the spices, aside from the diced green chilies. So it's nice and mild. And it's a thinner, as I said, it's a thinner type of soup, but chunky, with the meat and beans and veg. I have been really on a bean kick lately, and I think it is because I crave beans overwhelmingly when the weather gets cold. And now that I have more comfort in cooking beans, that takes on a whole different flair. A little sip of tea. Cheers. Oh, hello, Ashlyn. You want to see my face? Well, goodness. Hello. Hopefully you saw me there. I don't know where the camera is. I hope that helps. Sorry, my hand's covered in chicken. Oh, Justin, certainly I'll shout you out. Cheers. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining me in the kitchen. I encourage you to give this a whirl. When I was single and didn't have a child, I would make this quite often. So in a sense, this is one of my all-time favorite comfort foods. Hope it brings you comfort as well. It's quite a lean dish too, if that is something that you pay attention to. Very low salt, I guess, except for the broth, of course. Okay, there we are. Chicken is in. Since there are folks in the kitchen, I wonder if you might share with me what your favorite comfort soups are, or if you've tried this recipe before. I'm going to knock the heat up. The chicken is a little cold from being in the fridge. I'm going to knock the heat up to about medium high. And as always, I am a seasoning layerer. So I like to season the layers of the soup, even though it doesn't call for it. It doesn't call for salt, but I'm going to do that. I feel like it just seasons the meat and the oil sears it in. Okay, get that going. Okay, let's get this set here. And I'm going to just kind of start, I'm going to go a little higher, medium high. I'm going to start the chicken out to sear the sides, and then I'll add the onions and cook until they're softened. And then at the very end of this saute, once the onions are softened, I'll add a half a teaspoon of minced garlic and just briefly mix that business in before I add the water, the chicken base, and the cumin. Last thing to go in are those beautiful beans and corn. I can't believe that 2024 is almost over. I am 45 years old, and by far, every year I find myself saying this, but by far this year feels like it has passed within the blink of an eye. I can't even, I still feel like I'm in the spring. Don't know why that is or why it happens that way. Maybe it comes with aging, but holy moly. I do find that it does help me to really appreciate things as we go, you know. So while the year goes really fast, in a lot of ways I feel like I live life in almost slow motion. You know, I really make a good effort to live in a gracious state of mind. And that too is a beautiful thing that comes with age. And yesterday I found myself, I a couple of years back stopped sending out Christmas cards and opted instead for New Year's cards. So I am actually a bit of a freelance designer, and so this year I am having a go at designing our Christmas card, you know, and having some pictures in there, playing with some fonts. Yeah, I'm still kind of dreaming it up, and gosh, I do have, and I think until the end of July, or January rather, to get that going and printed. We have an awesome print shop in our small town, and they do a beautiful job with cardstock and color prints. All right. Go ahead and add the onion. That would look like it was going to be a giant onion, and I was hoping it would be, so I could use half of it for another dish, but because there was that rot in the middle, I ended up, you know, not being able to spare any. Yeah, medium heat won't cut it. You want to be medium-high heat for this stage of the saute. I love that smell. It brings back memories. For folks who are in the room, I'm curious where you are in the world. What are you up to this Sunday? I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to YouTube Studio or the data on my videos. But when I have looked, I've been just delighted to see just the diversity of people who tend to come to this channel, and where they live all over the world. It's kind of fun. Cooking does bring people together, doesn't it? You know, and in fact, I started this YouTube channel, just after COVID was in full swing, and I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and ever since my child was born, I really, I emphasized cooking as one thing that I could definitely do every day that was both rewarding, mentally stimulating, kind of breaks the monotony of changing diapers and feedings and getting used to being a mom. And I started to write a cookbook intended for my child. And so over the years, I've continued to add to that cookbook. I've done a couple of separate compilations or collections based on some of those recipes. And I just started a new one actually right now. But starting a YouTube channel was kind of, you know, my way to connect with my loved ones and connect with people, and stave off that sense of isolation. You know, certainly during COVID, that was a very isolating experience, but sometimes being a stay-at-home mom can be that way too, you know. But it was a way for me to kind of, I am much older. I had my child much later in life, and I spent most of my youth with my friends, making food and sharing, sharing the joy, sharing the stories, sharing the traditions. And so, in a sense, this is a way of letting that tradition live on. And it's also a way to kind of capture for my daughter what her mom was up to during these years when she was a young child. It's fun sometimes. She pops into video. She gets a kick out of it. And is always telling me that she wants to do the same thing. She, when I'm not recording a video, she'll actually ask me, Mom, record this. I'm going to make these pancakes. And I found it fun, and I appreciate you asking to see my face, because I don't often show my face. And with my child, I kind of don't put her face on social media either, with the exception of people that I know really well. So pardon me for that. No offense, certainly. It is just the world we live in these days. Okay, we're smelling nice and fragrant. Those onions are getting translucent. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to not drain this off. We're going to keep that beautiful oil in there and the juices from the chicken. We're going to go ahead and add a cup and a half of water and a pretty generous heap of chicken base. A lot of times I will mix the chicken broth up in advance. I love it when I have homemade chicken broth. That's always nice, but I have not made a roasted chicken for a while, so this will have to do. Bring this back up to temp if you like. You are going to want to bring this to a boil, cover it, and then lower to a simmer. I think it's about 2 hours. I do have a couple of jobs actually, and one of them is event staff. And I tried so hard this year to be on the staff for the Nutcracker Ballet, but I didn't get the bid for any of them. I think a lot of people probably enjoy doing that, but maybe next year. All right, 1 teaspoon of cumin. I live in King County, Washington, suburb, but I live in rural King County. And so the idea of popping into Seattle for a show or a game has been a really fun experience so far. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of that next summer. All right, and go the beans. Again, we have cannellini beans, which are basically white kidney beans, chickpeas, which are also known as garbanzo beans. The recipe calls for white choux peg corn, just for the color, but this is just regular corn. And then some mild diced green chilies. Oh, the recipe says simmer for 3 to 4 hours, which you can certainly do. but I'm just going to go for 2 hours. The beans are canned this time, right? So they don't need a whole lot of time to cook. You know, that looks a little shy on water. I'm going to go a little more. Maybe half a cup more. I did put in a lot of chicken base, so. It's funny, the other night, I was making bacon lentil soup, and I thought I was being so clever getting all of these multiple dishes done at the same time. So I had the lentil soup cooking or simmering over low heat, actually. I had the oven going at 350, baking off some Greek seasoned chicken. And what else did I have? I think I had another burner on. But what I didn't anticipate was the oven being on at the same time that this burner was on was actually making it hotter than I realized. And I was pretty thrown and literally turned down the burner as low as I possibly could, because you want lentil soup to simmer for an hour, not boil. But I just couldn't get the heat down. And then after the fact, you know, I walk around the corner, still 20 minutes left of cooking time, and I could smell beans scorching. And so I immediately was able to move it off. I was able to salvage most of it, but it did burn to the bottom of the pan. And it also likewise burnt the, well, not burnt completely, but it had a negative impact on the chicken that was in the oven too. So I haven't had to worry about that for so many years, but now I know that this oven, it is certainly a much older oven, and stovetop, I need to pay attention to that and not multitask perhaps as much. Oh, I had garlic bread and the chicken cooking in the oven at the same time that the lentil soup was going. That's what it was. But it all turned out well. One thing though, I haven't really done this in a while either, was the lentils, the water boiled off pretty fast. And so what I ended up doing was add a couple of cups of chicken stock, and then brought it back up to a boil to cook, you know, properly cook the lentils. So it ended up not really taking much more time. And there was that little extra step with the chicken stock. I don't normally put chicken stock in with the lentils, but it ended up turning out pretty good. All right, so there you have it. I might do a little short once we get to the finished product here. I'll go ahead and set the alarm here for 2 hours. I can smell it already, that yummy corn. So there we have it. Might be chilly. All right. Thank you again for joining me in the kitchen. And I'll give you a little smile and a shout out. Merry Christmas, and my best to you and your families, and a joyful New Year. Cheers.